Fellow libertarians, my name is Arvin Vora. I'm the former vice chair of the Libertarian Party, a former presidential candidate, and today I want to speak in favor of, or in response, to some of the censures that were made against me about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I stated what I believed at the time to be the absolute truth, which is this: enlisting in the military is morally wrong. Joining the military is morally wrong. Being part of the military is morally wrong because being part of the military is the ultimate act of statism. Being part of the military is basically taking away your own conscience and replacing it with the will of the state. And when you do that, you put yourself in a morally compromised position. I argued that killing for the state is murder. I argued that if the people ever did uprise against the police, the military would be their backup. And so while opposition to the police is very commonplace in militaries, in libertarian circles, to me, if you oppose the police, you need to oppose the military too, because the two go together. The police is always the backup of the military. Now, at the time, many state parties chose to formally censure me for my statements against military enlistment and military recruitment. The LNC passed a motion to put forth additional welcoming information for people in the military, showing the country that the Libertarian Party stands behind the military. So 3 years ago, you guys got your way. 3 years ago, all the state parties that censured me, you guys got your way. But today, the very people whose enlistment you did nothing at all to block, the 17 and 18-year-olds who you helped enlist by saying nothing to stop them and instead actively encouraging military recruitment, the people who you told that it's heroic to join the federal government's army, the people who you told, who looked up to you and you guided down this path of statism, those people are now deployed against the American people. A few minutes from my house, a few minutes from many of your houses. The police have brutalized American civilians. They've done it in broad daylight, in cold blood, and on video. And rightfully, the American people are rising up against them. And as I said 3 years ago, as I predicted without too much difficulty 3 years ago, the military has been deployed as the backup to the police. The military is there. It is the backup of the police. The military has been deployed in favor of tyranny and against the American people. So to every single state that chose to censure me 3 years ago, I'm going to ask you for two favors. I'm going to ask you one at a time, but right now I'm asking you all together. There are two things I'm going to ask, not two favors, two requests that I'm going to make. The first request is this: I would like you to retract your censures. You had the courage to censure me in the past when you thought I was wrong. You thought that I was wrong. That's why you did it. I get that you didn't do it for evil purposes. You believed in your heart of hearts, not just that I was wrong, but that I was so ridiculously, absurdly wrong. Now listen, this wasn't a normal disagreement. This was a censure, which means you believed that I was so ridiculously and absurdly and absolutely wrong that this transcended the normal bounds of political debate and required a formal censure. In other words, to reject the possibility that I was right. That's what a censure means. A censure isn't a disagreement. A censure means that we as an organization believe that these views are not maybe wrong, but cannot be right ever under any circumstances. That's what a censure means. And I would like you to retract that. You had the courage to censure me when you thought I was wrong. Now I want to see if you have the courage to retract those censures now that you know that I was right. At the time, I drew the obvious parallels. Today's military is the same as yesterday's redcoats, and it was a difficult connection to make for a lot of you. The uniforms are different. You know, they're on supposedly our side or whatever. But at this point, the connection should be obvious. I mean, it is obvious. You have to be willfully ignorant to not see it. So my first request is I would like you to retract those censures. You censured me because you believed it was impossible for me to be right, and now I am right. What I said would happen has happened. The military has been deployed against the American people. The military has been backing up, is right now backing up violence against the American people. If not for the military, we could take the police down. We could have more than enough people and firepower to take the police down. With the military on the side of the police, who knows? I was right, and I would like that retracted. The second thing is I would like you to work to correct those mistakes. Because of you, some of the people who might have been turned away from military enlistment are now deployed around the country. They're driving tanks through our city streets. They're standing in front of government buildings. They're fighting against peaceful and righteous protests. The protesters are right. They're on the side of right. It is not okay to kill civilians in cold blood. The police are not designed. Even if you believe in capital punishment, that's not how it works. This is capital punishment without a trial. Here's how bad the police behavior is. If we were at war and a soldier did to a foreign civilian what the police have done to American civilians, then the United States would be held liable for war crimes. The president of the United States at that time, if he did not in some way mete out justice to those troops, would be seen as a war criminal, as would the generals, platoon leaders, and the soldiers themselves for doing something like that to an enemy. Now, this is the police doing that to the American people, to American civilians. And the military is backing them up. The military that's deployed is not deployed against the police. It's not on the side of the protesters telling the police to stop shooting rubber bullets and tear gas and just regular bullets at them. The military is deployed on the side of the police against those who are protesting state abuse. And so I would like every state party and the Libertarian National Committee to dedicate itself to fighting against military enlistment, military recruitment, and police enlistment and recruitment. We have a moral obligation to try to fight against the cult of the omnipotent state. And nowhere is it stronger than in military and police recruitment. 3 years ago, you made a mistake. Now it's your time to set that mistake right. Let's make sure that never again does a single American teenager get tricked into military recruitment. Not a single one more decent person get turned into a violent monster of the state, to make sure that the state does not have the manpower or firepower to wage this kind of a war against the American people. My name is Arvin Vohra, and I am asking you, as individuals, as state parties, and as a party, to fight military recruitment with every single ounce and fiber of your persuasion, of your work, of your ethic, and let's let the country know that military recruitment and military enlistment in the current foreign and now domestic policy is absolutely and unequivocally wrong.